She's defective. She's a defective person. And we don't need another defective person as president of the United States. 10 or 12 million votes more than that, more than anybody had ever got. We got the most votes of anybody, of any sitting president in history. And he beat us by a whisker.
The truth shall set you free!
And it was a terrible thing.
Wait, did I hear that correct?
He beat us by a whisker.
I mean, it's only taken him 1,495 days after the 2020 election, but it appears that Donald Trump tactically admitted that he lost to Joe Biden again.
Because this chart probably saved my life. But this chart is showing, the arrow on the bottom shows that this was the lowest. This was the last week in office for me because of a horrible, horrible election where I got many millions more votes than I got the first time, but didn't quite make it, just a little bit short.
As you may be awake to, Donald Trump has seemingly upped the frequency of his unhinged ramblings recently, from low-energy pressers to lower-energy interviews.
What happened, with Afghanistan, I do the weave. You know what the weave is? I'll talk about like 9 different things, and they all come back brilliantly together. And it's like, and friends of mine that are like English professors, they say, it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. But the fake news, you know what they say? He rambled. That's not rambling. What you do is you get off a subject to mention another little tidbit, then you get back onto the subject, and you go through this, and you do it for 2 hours, and you don't even mispronounce one word. And she mentioned thank you about 50 times. Did you see the beginning? Thank you, 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 thank you. I said, what the hell is wrong with her?
All right, we're going to keep an eye on all of these events happening throughout the day. And I just want to, let's bring our panel back in, and then we'll take a look at some of the polling. We're joined again by Outkick.
But it appears that amidst all of that, he's struggling to keep up the dangerous facade that he perpetuated for years. That facade, of course, leading to one of the most violent insurrections in the nation's history. That's right, almost 4 years of denial has given way to not one, but 2 separate instances where, in a very innocuous way, Trump has admitted to losing in 2020. The first one was made while Trump held a press conference last Thursday about immigration issues near a stretch of the wall on the Arizona side of the US-Mexico border, while holding up a printed copy of a graph that shows alleged migrant encounter stats at the southern border. Trump rambled, as he so often does, before segueing into the election, in which he said, and I quote, he came up short.
Because this chart probably saved my life. But this chart is showing, the arrow on the bottom shows that this was the lowest. This was the last week in office for me because of a horrible, horrible election where I got many millions more votes than I got the first time, but didn't quite make it, just a little bit short.
And then to prove that this wasn't just a one-off, he did it again just yesterday during yet another low-energy appearance.
See, she's defective. She's a defective person. And we don't need another defective person as president of the United States. We just had that. $10 or 12 million votes more than that, more than anybody had ever got. We got the most votes of anybody, of any sitting president in history. And he beat us by a whisker. And it was a terrible thing. They used COVID to cheat. And it was a terrible thing. And then I watched, and I thought it was very, very sad because of, the election it brought great division to the country.
Now, we know that in addition to his unprecedented effort to overturn the 2020 election, which of course culminated in his supporters attacking the US Capitol, the former president has repeatedly made false claims that the 2020 election was stolen. And a slew of his former allies, including members of his own legal team, pled guilty to interfering with the election in Georgia.
What do you say to that female independent suburban voter who feels that way, to win her back?
First of all, I won in 2020 by a lot, okay? Let's get that straight. I won in 2020.
You know that this,
and if you look at all of the tapes, if you look at everything that you want to look at, you take a look at Truth to Vote, where they have people stuffing the ballot boxes on tapes, or
Mr. President,
let's go to recent. Well, wait a minute. Let's go to recent FBI Twitter. Let's go to recent. The 51 agents, all corrupt stuff, Brett.
Understand about the Hunter Biden,
no, but
all
that's cheating
fair
on the
things.
election.
But
that's cheating on the election.
you lost the 2020 election.
Brett, you take a look at all of the stuffed ballots. You take a look at all of the things, including things like the 51 intelligence agents.
There were recounts in all of the swing states. There was not significant widespread
We're trying
fraud.
to get recounts, real recounts, not just
investigations,
numbers of votes
widespread
cast.
corruption. There was not a sense of that. There were lawsuits, more than 50 of them, by your lawyers, some in front of
Brett, are you
judges that you appointed.
Look at Wisconsin.
That came out with no evidence.
Wisconsin has practically admitted it was rigged. Other states are doing the same right now, and it's continuing.
There have been
It was
reviews
a
of
rigged
every
election.
potential case of voter fraud in 6 battleground states, and they found fewer than 475 cases.
You know why?
that
Because
was
they
not
didn't
affected.
look at the right things.
Okay,
Brett.
are you going
they
to
were
be
counting? They were counting ballots, not the authenticity of the ballot. The ballots were fake ballots. You had this
I
was a
asked,
very rigged
Are
election.
you going to go? This is how you're going to tell that independent suburban woman voter
No,
to vote for
we're
you?
off to winning an election, and I think we're winning very well. I got a poll just recently. I have it here.
No, I know, and I watched the numbers.
And to anyone who's been paying attention, the 45th president has been nothing short of obsessed with this idea that the election was rigged and stolen from him, going as far to invite Mike Johnson to Mar-a-Lago to discuss election integrity. I mean, irony had no tears left to weep. And he was given the opportunity during the first presidential debate with then candidate Joe Biden to unequivocally state whether he would accept the results of this upcoming election, to which he did everything but answer the question. And according to a profoundly important segment by Rachel Maddow that I don't think has got enough attention, she already outlined how Trump's team already setting a precedent to try and rig this upcoming election. Hence why he continues to claim that he doesn't even need votes.
And again, Christians, get out and vote. Just this time. Don't have to do it anymore. 4 more years. You know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine.
But I said there's a lot going on at the surface level in terms of donors and campaign positions and campaign strategy and the way they're behaving in public. There's a lot that is weird. There is one last thing in terms of the weirdness of this campaign that I think is actually quite serious. You probably heard this weekend that Donald Trump told an audience on Friday night that if they vote for him this November, if he's voted back into office this November, they will never have to vote again. I mean, he's positing this like this is a happy thing. Oh, joy, never having the burden of voting again, right? The point of democracy is that we vote all the time.
When Trump says that after this election, people won't need to vote because it will be fixed, it's obviously troubling on so many levels, because how exactly does he plan to fix it?
The day before that, on Thursday last week, he didn't say that people wouldn't have to vote anymore once he was elected this November. No, the day before that, on Thursday, he told his supporters, not that they're not going to have to vote again, but that they don't have to vote this time.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
Telling voters, do not bother to vote for me. It doesn't matter if you do. I don't need your votes. That is a thing that should prick up your ears. Because what that means is that he doesn't think he needs to win the vote to win the election. He doesn't think he needs to win the election in order to take power. He thinks something other than votes is going to determine whether or not he gets back in the White House.
Now, for whatever reason, these 2 instances in which he admitted to losing the election barely have even made the news. You know, you'd think that the former president admitting to the very thing that people violently protested over would be newsworthy, right? But no, of course, mainstream media need to save room for pressing headlines like this, where Kamala Harris just didn't want to give oxygen to the ridiculous claims that Donald Trump continues to make that she's not even black.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it? That's it. Okay. Let's talk about
But Politico ran this headline instead. And you wonder why people are flocking to independent news media. It is a utter failure that this has seemingly flown under the radar, but not on the Meidas network.
It's not about fighting socialism or communism or Marxist whatever. It's not about America first. It's not about some deep state that needs to be uprooted. It's about wanting our system of government to go away. It's about creating a sense of emergency, a sense of an enemy within, so that the public at large can be pushed and persuaded into giving up this system of government and just letting their guy, their real man, their strong man take over. And when that is what you are up against, no, do not be surprised when it turns out they're not going to respect election results, because they don't want elections to be the way we decide things anyway. Trump is now telling his supporters, you will never have to vote again. He's also, even more frequently, telling his supporters that he doesn't even need them to vote for him this time. He doesn't need their votes. Why does he not need their votes? Because he apparently thinks he can get back into power without them. Republicans really have stacked election boards in all of the swing states with dozens of officials who are bent on not allowing the certification of the vote totals in their counties and thereby, hopefully, messing up the certification of the vote totals in their states. It is happening. And yes, Kamala Harris on the Democratic side, she really is running a juggernaut of a campaign. It is going to get turbocharged all the more tomorrow when she announces her running mate. But on the Republican side, they are doing something entirely different, which is not about winning the most votes. It is about stopping the votes from being counted.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram @MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.